Welcome to the 1 Minute Apologist. We interview the world's leading apologists to provide credible answers to curious questions. Barnabas, both of us have something in common. We've both written a book on doubt.
Mine came out a month before yours. I beat you to the punch.
You did beat me to the punch on that, but it was a great book and I really did enjoy it. As I think about the way that you've struggled with doubt growing up in a pastor's home, you kind of got that look on your face like you want to have a good laugh. You want to have a good laugh with me?
Watch this. You say pastor's home and it's just like stories.
Oh yeah. You're ready to roll.
I mean, it's sort of like living a reality TV show.
A reality TV show. Well, I think my kids might say that same exact thing. The reality is, though, speaking of reality, is doubt does come in different shades, different flavors. I didn't grow up in a Christian home. You did, and both of us have different experiences with doubt. Nevertheless, we're both experiencing doubt. What is Barnabas Piper's brief story of doubt?
Yeah, so for me, it was much. I didn't have the intellectual and philosophical doubt that maybe people think of in terms of having these nagging questions, these philosophical questions where you just can't arrive at a satisfactory answer, which I think is how a lot of people would view doubt. There wasn't a lot of questions about the existence of God or the character of God or things like that. For me, it was a disconnect between the collection of things that I had been taught and the things that defined my life. And so, growing up pastor's home, I was full of biblical teaching and knowledge and Bible memorization, and I was a sort of the quintessential church kid in all of that, and collected all those things, and I believed them to a point, but there was a disconnect between all of that and I guess my self-identity. The thing by which I defined myself. And in Christianity, obviously, what you believe about Jesus ought to be the defining characteristic. You ought to find your identity in Christ. And there was a disconnect for me there. And so that allowed a space for sins and just some misconceptions about who I was and what I ought to be to creep in. And it led me to make sort of a series of bad decisions that led to a real crisis in my life. I ended up losing a job due to some unethical decisions because I was trying to be somebody who I wasn't supposed to be. So there was a disconnect between the things that I knew and the beliefs that drove me. I was searching for beliefs to drive me instead of resting in the right ones. And that led to the distinct season of doubt for me. Now, the doubts haven't completely gone away, but for me, the shape that took was not being certain of all those things that I had been taught. What is real? What really matters? I was still had this mental assent that yes, they're true. It wasn't making me doubt God's existence or the Bible's words or things like that. It was making me doubt, is God really worth following? If all that stuff was as true as people told me it was, why didn't it have a different effect on me? Those kinds of doubts. It was so, and then doubts of self, doubts of who am I in relationship to God? Can I ever get to the place where I'm a different kind of person? Is all of this worth it? So it was really doubting the value of it as much as it was the truth of it, if that makes sense.
Sure.
And so it was only when I came to the place of intersecting with the story out of Mark 9 about the father who brought his son to Jesus because his son was possessed by a demon, that I saw something of Jesus that I hadn't seen before. And the key part of that story was when the father says basically, "Can you help me?" And Jesus says, "I can help you if you believe." And the father cries out, "I believe, help my unbelief." And I saw there the bridge that I needed between these things that I knew to be true and the person that I wanted to be, because it was I can hold to these truths, but I don't have to. But I can still struggle with questions.
Sure.
And that's the help my unbelief piece. And so that was and continues to be sort of my process through doubt, is always struggling with questions of the genuineness, the realness, the value of those truths. But that I believe help my unbelief prayer is the bridge and the glue that holds those truths together with kind of the everyday struggles of life and doubt.